Welcome, listeners, to the very first episode of Dead and Lovely, your new favorite horror movie review podcast, here with Ben.
And Steve.
That's Steve. You guys may know me otherwise as Uncle Ben if you've tuned into my YouTube channel and watched my guitar lesson series videos like Weekend Wank Shop or This Is Why You Suck at Guitar, which critics have called mildly amusing and slightly informative. Steve, where might they know you from, you Hollywood sumbitch?
People might know me from perhaps me having taught them English composition at the University of Tennessee or Pellissippi State Community College in Knoxville. Or they might know me from doing some stand-up around town in Hollywood here.
You've come at them kids learning.
That's true. That's true. I've come at them kids learning.
So, me and Steven, it may very well appear that we started this podcast here merely for fame and fortune, but I really think that it's just an excuse for us to hang out and chat and giggle like the little schoolgirls that we were whenever we met in community college, whenever Steven still lived with me here in East Tennessee. We went to college together and immediately started just giggling and laughing and cutting up and having generally a great old time, and have stayed in touch ever since then, even after Steven moved out to the West Coast, California, because he heard there was gold in them there hills.
And there is. I'm going to find it, okay?
Have you found any gold in the hills yet?
No, well, look, okay? I mean, there are hills.
Yeah.
And there is the expression, there's gold in them there hills.
Yeah.
So I'm going to find it.
I remember whenever we had that history class together in college and the professor was talking about how early settlers heard there was gold in them hills, and then you immediately stood up, left your books and your backpack and stuff in the classroom, and headed out to the West Coast. You had a look in your eyes that was just gold fever.
And I already had a pickaxe.
Yeah. Well, you've been walking around with that pickaxe and that gold pan ever since I met you.
I was ready. I mean, all I needed to know was where the gold was.
Yeah. So generally, I kind of think that this podcast is more or less just an excuse for us to have a reason to get together every couple of weeks and spend some good quality time together, talking and chatting and so forth. But then as a little bonus for you guys get to hear us go over a horror movie that we have just watched. Sometimes it'll be new flicks, sometimes it'll be older stuff. I'd say typically it'll be stuff that you can find on the interwebs and streaming to watch. We're going to go through it and kind of break it down and give you a little review ski while we cut up and have ourselves a little bit of a good old time. So, Steven, in order to let these beautiful folks get to know you a little bit better, why don't you just tell me a little about yourself and tell me how maybe you first got into watching some scurry movies?
Well, I, growing up, had a mother and an aunt, an uncle. Yeah,
no,
I did.
I don't believe it.
And they apparently felt that it was okay for children to watch whatever movies they wanted to watch.
I like them.
And from a very early age, I was already drawn to the box art on horror movies.
Yeah.
So we would rent horror movies all the time, my cousins and I, and just have horror movie marathons. So I've been watching horror movies since I was in my very early days. I really don't know what it was from that time that drew me to horror movies. I think, though, that maybe it's because I have such extreme anxiety that watching the worst case scenario actually makes me feel better. It makes me feel like, at least everything else is okay.
Right, yeah, it's like, well, I'm not being chased by the Krueger here, so it could be worse.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a pretty good way to look at it.
Yeah. How about yourself, Ben?
Well, the funny thing is I would call myself definitely a late bloomer to the entire horror movie thing, because as a child, I was strictly verboten from watching such insidious, nasty things. But kind of like what you're saying there, I remember always being in the video store, likely renting a NES or Super NES game, and walking up to the counter and seeing all these awesome-looking horror movie boxes. Because back in the day of the video store rental, that movie box was kind of like really what drew you in. To renting those things. So I would walk by the shelves and see the boxes for like Hellraiser and Child's Play and all these other ones that like I was totally not allowed to watch, and I would just kind of like imagine how cool that stuff must have been, or like what possibly could have been going on inside of those movies. But I never really got to watch any of them.
I would love to hear young Ben like just pitch what Child's Play was from the box.
That's the podcast that like really needs to exist, is just like showing a little kid the box of a horror movie and being like, all right, elaborate on this, just expand, what do you think this could be about?
I think there's a little doll and I don't know, he has a knife, I don't get it.
If you asked a young homeschool bowl-cutted Ben Eller what that was likely about, I'd say that he would actually probably be like, I'm not related to you. I don't know how to speak to you. As a child, I used to say, all the time. All the time. So it was only really after I got out of the house and started seeing a girl that I was able to start watching some of these horror movies. And I really, really dug it right away. I think partially because it was so taboo and forbidden around the house and stuff, but I've just really been into it ever since then. But as a result of the fact that I didn't grow up with this stuff, there are huge gaps in my viewing habits of horror movies. Like there's a lot of classic ass stuff that I have never seen. Like I've never seen The Exorcist, and that's the kind of thing that I think will be really fun on this podcast, is to hear the reactions of a grown ass man watching The Exorcist for the first time and probably being very upset. Do you have a favorite horror movie that comes to mind when I say favorite horror movie, Steven?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
TCM.
The
remake, right? The remake?
Yeah, love Jessica Biel. No, of course the original and The Shining. Those are two of my favorite movies of all time. But absolutely my two favorite horror movies. Right,
dude. The Shining is absolutely my favorite horror movie, and like you said, also just one of my favorite movies of any genre. Period. Yeah. Absolute masterpiece. I'll never forget the first time I watched that. It was like watching my nightmares come to life. It's so sick. I love that one. I love the original Halloween. Just Halloween 1. That's just such a fun, festive movie to me. That's one that I'll never really quit watching. I love it. All of these we'll do on the show eventually, but today
Halloween
for the first
is festive.
It is. It's a festive movie. But for the flagship episode of the show, we decided to go with a movie that neither of us have ever seen. It's also the first movie by this director that any of us have ever seen. It is Phenomena by Dario Argento.
That's right.
And
Phenomena.
And you'd never seen any other Argento movie, right?
I have not. I've avoided Dario Argento. Just seeing stills from Dario Argento films made me feel like perhaps there was something going on that was a bit strange that I wouldn't like.
Something
I generally like strange movies, but I don't know. If you look at any stills from his movies, there's a lot of bright red, sort of pinkish blood, and it seemed like maybe it was too over the top for me.
Right, seemed borderline un-American.
Yeah, absolutely. And his first name, Dario, that's not a name.
Oh my God. Do they not even make real names over there?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'd never watched any before either. I know that Suspiria is one of those, apparently, just, I see that on the list of like top 10 horror movies all over the place. So I know that's one that I definitely need to watch. And you too, apparently, since this is the first one that we've both seen.
Yeah. And now I will, because I really liked this movie.
Yes, absolutely the same here too. So before we started getting into the movie, where were you able to watch this film, Steve?
Well, I bought it online. I bought a Blu-ray quality download,
Mm-hmm.
And it looked beautiful.
Yeah, man. I watched it
How about
on
yourself?
an app for the Roku that's called Popcorn Flicks. It was a free app, POPCORNFLI. I can't remember if it's FLIX or CKS. I'm sure you could Google it and you'll find out either way. But it was a free
Sure.
app that we downloaded on the Roku, and it has all kinds of free flicks and TV shows and stuff on there. It's pretty awesome, with the little catch that there are ads. It's like once you watch maybe every 10 or 15 minutes, you'll get a minute or two worth of ads,
Okay.
which is very bearable. It's free, and the selections and stuff that are on there is stuff that you can't really find on other streaming services. They got some deep cut stuff. They got a lot of stuff I definitely want to use for the show too. So it's definitely
Yeah,
worth checking out.
you told me about this the other day, and I went on there and started looking through, and I found a film that I'd never even heard of called Microwave Massacre. So can't wait to check that one out.
You know that's gonna be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's a bunch of good looking stuff on there. Like I said, they'll roll a couple of ads every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or something like that, which is great if you're like me and you like to get up and get just a little tug on that old whiskey bottle every now and then while you watch a flick, or perhaps grab a refreshing LaCroix flavored seltzer water. So very good app. Again, you can get it for free. I looked online and you can actually just stream it off their website, but it's a totally different selection of movies. So that's interesting.
Oh, well, there you go.
So the movie opens up with a beautiful view of the Swiss mountains and a bus loading up a bunch of tourists on it.
This movie is gorgeous.
Yes.
It's so beautiful. It's so well shot. I mean, that is a hallmark of the giallo genre of horror films from Italy. But it's just so well shot.
Yeah, the first shots of it with the mountains and the landscapes and stuff kind of gave me that Shining sort of feel where like the environment is bigger than anything. It's really cool. Mm-hmm. So we see some tourists getting loaded onto a bus, and a girl gets left behind, and she's shouting to the people on the bus and stuff. She gets left behind, and she ends up walking towards this house. What was in that house there, Steve?
Well, in that house, there was something that was chained up.
Yeah.
And as she walked around the house trying to find someone, that thing got very excited and eventually ripped the chains out of the wall. And as she was inside, the whatever it is, we don't see it.
Yeah.
Wraps the chains around her and tries to strangle her, but she escapes. She gets away. Everything's gonna be all right, right?
So you think?
But no, it's not gonna be all right, because in this scene, we see a pair of scissors fall and stick into the floor, and there's this sort of loving close-up shot.
They're very shiny, very chrome.
Very chrome. And then whatever it is that's chasing this girl picks up the scissors, and as she's trying to get attention or escape through the window, she's stabbed through the hand with the scissors.
Which looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks great. She pulls those out. She gets away. She's running through, I don't know, some sort of gorgeous sidewalk that's set up around a waterfall.
It's like a mountain pass. It's very strange feature for home.
Yeah. And she's being chased and eventually comes to what I guess is like an observation spot that has a glass window between a little rock alcove and the waterfall. And at this point, she gets stabbed with the scissors, and her head, for whatever reason, breaks the glass behind her.
I loved that shot. It's like in super slow-mo, and her head recoils backwards through the glass. And then, like, where you kind of expect the shot to end, it keeps going, and you see the glass like, falling onto her face, which is sick.
this movie has a lot of, they do a lot of things very practically. I'm assuming that's sugar glass, but sugar glass can still cut you.
Right.
And when I saw that glass fall down on her face, it hits, like there's like a palpable sort of impact, and then just sort of falls down forward. It does not crumble. It just hits.
It looks unsavory. It looks like something I wouldn't want to experience.
No, not at all.
And then we see the waterfall rushing along, and her dang old head flops into that water, Steve. She's been plumb decapitated.
Someone has removed her head from her body.
With a scissor that must have been very, very, very difficult to do, but she is presumed deceased after having her head removed. I assumed anyway.
Yeah, you know what? And I think from what I saw, movie tends to move with the idea that she died.
And so then after that awesome intro, which also has some killer soundtrack. The soundtrack throughout the movie by Goblin and other supporting artists that we'll talk about as we get there is absolutely sick. Really sets the tone. So after that intro, we are introduced to a monkey walking around outside of a house that contains none other than Dr. Loomis of Halloween fame, who I am just going to call Loomis, because as far as I know, that's who he'll always be. So Loomis is in a wheelchair, and he's in there talking to some detectives, right?
Yeah.
And they're talking about bugs and how bugs can help you solve crime scenes based on how long it takes for a maggot to hatch in a corpse and all that sort of thing.
Real CSI stuff.
Oh, yeah. And then the monkey comes into the house, and that monkey's got a scalpel.
He totally does. And we discovered that this monkey has an interest in shiny things, I guess, that will later prove to be very important in the story.
The monkey apparently has an attraction to very stabby things.
Yes, it does.
So we're treated to Loomis's very, very, very temporary Irish accent, where he rolls a single R in a sentence. Wait, excuse me. Is he Scottish? Yeah, he's Scottish. He's not Irish. He's Scottish. Not that you could tell.
No, he sort of lets that go pretty quickly, I think.
He uses that laser pointer. He has like a really primitive laser pointer, which is this huge remote control looking rig that he points to stuff, and the monkey will go get the stuff with the laser pointer. I'm saying monkey. I'm sure that it's not a monkey.
Chimp.
It's a chimp? All right. So it's a chimp.
Yeah.
They're all monkeys to me. I don't know.
Yeah, they're all monkeys.
So as Loomis is talking with the detectives, he unveils this disgusting, rotten, severed head he has in a box sitting right there on the table with him, which must have smelled putrid.
Yeah, and we find out as he's talking about it that it's been like 4.5 months.
I believe I have 8 months down. It's an old head, 8-month-old head.
8 months, they said. Okay, and it's covered in maggots.
Not looking fresh.
No. Oh my God. It would have, in reality, it would have to smell so bad. But also, bugs are gross.
Yeah.
They're like really gross.
Yeah.
And this movie has a ton of them.
Yeah. And so then at that point, he talks about how, I'm not exactly sure what the relationship is. I believe that she was an assistant of his or something like that. But he talks about how Rita has been missing, which I believe is his assistant. It's never really referred to exactly in the movie, but he references her several times.
Oh, I think he does say later when he first meets Jennifer Connelly, who, surprise, is our heroine, that Rita was his assistant.
Right, okay, so she's gone missing.
Yeah.
And so after that, we're treated to a shot of old Jennifer Connelly, who very conveniently is named Jennifer in the movie.
It does help, and her last name is Corvino, so it's not very far off.
Right, and she's in a car, and she's with the lady who will be referred to as Frau. Her name is Frau something or another.
Bruckner?
Yeah, Bruckner. And so we'll refer to it from here out as Frau. So she's in the car with Frau and a driver, and they're being driven towards her new school. And so the Frau is kind of giving her a little bit of background. She refers to where they're going as the Swiss Transylvania. They talk a little bit
Which,
about how Jen's dad is famous. Yeah, what's with the Swiss Transylvania?
yeah, that sets up the expectation that there's going to be a vampire, right?
I guess so. And they mention it several times throughout the movie. There's actually a lot of things throughout this movie that they keep mentioning that you sort of expect to be important, and they really aren't, which I think is very strange and interesting.
Yeah, I mean, my primary problem with this movie is the dialogue. And yeah, there's so much stuff said that is unnecessary or never comes back. And some of it might pique your interest a bit too much and make you start thinking about something completely different. Like, for instance, when they call it the Swiss Transylvania.
Right. And throughout the course there, we also find out that Jen is the daughter of some famous... what is it that he does? Is he an actor, I believe?
He's an actor. His name is Paul Corvino.
Paul Corvino.
And that is not a real person, so thank God.
What a bunch of bullshit in this movie.
Yeah.
And a bee flies in the car, at which point Frau and the driver both just completely flip their shit as though they were like 5-year-old kids.
And this is also where we discover that the actress who plays Frau is not great.
She really isn't. But it kind of fits in with everything else in the movie, which is so surreal and strange and like not really how people act. So in a way it almost blends, but it makes no sense. Her and the driver about runs the damn car off the road over a bee.
Yeah.
And Jen saves it. She captures a bee in her hands, and Frau is like, "Don't touch it. It's the worst thing ever in the world." And Jen's like, "I love insects, all of them.
And they love me."
And then it gets a little close-up shot of the bee, and we're introduced to the sound effect that apparently all bugs in this universe make, which is it sounds like a squeaky wheel on a shopping cart.
Yeah, that's it. That is the sound all bugs make in this movie.
It's the whole movie. And so they arrive at the school, which, okay, did you catch the narration going on whenever she arrived?
That was weird. Suddenly, out of nowhere, we get a narrator who tells us what we just learned in the car. And then the narrator never comes back.
No, you don't. You only realize it, after you've already watched the entire movie through once, that there was absolutely no reason for that narration, and it has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. And that narration...
I think maybe... Because I think the Frau actress, her actual problem is I don't think she speaks English.
Mm-hmm.
So her line delivery seems kind of just phonetic.
Yeah.
And I think maybe they thought that everything didn't get through in that scene. Like, maybe we didn't understand everything she said.
Right. And
so they have this very freaking voice, then just repeat everything that was said.
I love that the narration voice also said, Jennifer arrives from the new world. As though, like, America was just discovered. And it's like, this was made in 1985? It's like, I don't think America had been the new world for quite some time by then.
I think that is something that apparently, I have never seen a Giallo movie, but I started reading up on the genre, and that's, I guess, kind of the idea behind a lot of the female protagonists in these movies is that they're usually foreigners.
Okay.
So maybe they were trying to play up the foreignness.
Right, stranger in a strange land kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we get to where Jen is in her dorm room there with her roommate, who is smoking a cigarette, which is not something you can really put in movies anymore, so that's cool.
Yeah, she's so French.
Now, they kind of go to chatting a little bit, and old Jen's hungry. So what does Jen get to eat here?
Well, of course, what would you want but baby food? I don't understand why they decided on this, but baby food. She eats baby food, and we learned she's a vegetarian. So
Yeah, so that's what I understand at all here is her roommate Sophie. She describes how her family and her baby brother have just been to visit, and it's like, why would her family leave baby food with her? I mean, overall, why do we need this scene at all of her eating baby food and talking about how she's a vegetarian? They make like a really strong point of pointing that out. And it's like, oh, maybe that'll be important later. It isn't.
Yeah. It's not. I think it establishes something about her character that, maybe makes her more like an insect, but insects, I guess, do eat meat, so never mind.
Yeah.
I have no idea why this is in this movie.
She eats it off of the end of a toothbrush, too, which I think is very strange and clever. So the headmistress walks in, who has no name other than headmistress.
Yeah, though she's got that sexy librarian thing going on.
She looks like she just like escaped off of the set of like a Robert Palmer video.
She does. Yeah. So they had just finished Sledgehammer, and so she got this role.
Yeah.
She comes in. She doesn't seem to like our little Jennifer at all.
She tells her to put away that poster of her own dad that she was about to hang up.
Yeah, and two problems here. One, why does she have a poster of her own dad? And no. After she takes it, she says she's got a bag full of them.
Yeah.
What? And then also, but why does she take the poster? I don't get. She immediately doesn't like Jennifer Connelly.
Maybe what we don't get is that Jennifer Connelly, like me, like maybe she was homeschooled, and so that the only people that she actually knew were like her mom and dad. So she was just like, I'm my dad's biggest fan. Like, that's all she had,
But then we find out, in fact, that Sophie is her dad's biggest fan.
Yeah, she knows all about her.
To prove it, she gives us this long exposition that tells us Jennifer Corvino's background, which she then says that she read in a magazine. I don't know what magazine it was.
I'm thinking Tiger
assuming,
Beat.
Though, it was Boring Personal Information Weekly.
Who Cares Monthly.
Yeah.
And Jennifer tells her about the story about why her mom left her and her dad for her lover and yada yada. So she's kind of giving this heartfelt exposition, which actually Connelly throwing around some chops on there. Like, actually, she does a really great job. Acts very naturally, very good.
This is only her third acting job.
Wow.
She is 14 in this, and she is great.
Yeah, and her hair is mad shiny. Oh my God.
It's so shiny.
And so after she gives this little speech about why her mom left and stuff, Sophie's like, yeah, there's a murder on the loose that kills girls. And Jen's like, yeah, anyway, I'm going to bed. Just, okay. So I guess that's fine. Yeah, that happens sometimes.
All right, whatever.
Okay, let me ask you this. In the version that you got, was there random Italian dubbing?
Yes.
Okay, because I have in my notes, Italian dub, question mark?
Yeah, I think, because I read this at the original American release cut out like 20 minutes of the movie. Mm-hmm. I think maybe some of that was put back in, but they didn't have it in English, maybe?
Oh.
Not sure.
It's so bizarre because at several points, this isn't the only time, but several points during the movie, it just busts into Italian. And there's no subtitles, there's no nothing. It's just, well, this is in Italian for a second. Anyway, back to the movie.
Mine had subtitles, but the scene that I think of the most is much later. It's near the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. It's between her and Frau Bruckner.
Right.
It's a long string of just Italian.
So after she's just like, oh, there's a killer on the loose? Yeah, I can't really be bothered with that. I'm going to go to bed. She starts having herself a dream. And she kind of is doing a little sleepwalking there, and some Iron Maiden starts playing.
Yes, it does.
Comes in hot.
It does, and in her dream, when she starts her dream, she's going down like a Take on Me hallway for some
Yeah.
reason
Oh,
that
that is what
has
it looks
like
like.
black garage doors on the side. It's really weird.
Which seems relevant, and then also never comes back. Like we actually never see what
Never
that
find
is.
out what that is. Why
No.
that? Yeah.
And so she's having her sleepwalking there, and we're seeing this girl getting chased about at the schoolhouse there,
Uh-huh.
who's yelling and screaming and carry on and so forth there. And Jen's walking up some stairs, and that's when we see that really elaborate snap-on, snap-together knife rig
Yeah.
getting set up there. It's kind of like a knife on the end of an extender
Like,
on the end of an extender on the end of an extender. It's very
yeah.
it's very strange.
I mean, I guess if you're a killer who wants to kill with a spear, that would be the way to do it. You don't want to be walking around with a big pole on your back. You want to break it down into 4 individual parts.
I suppose so. And there's also, too, in the dream sequence, there's this great shot that's just a close-up of Jennifer Connelly's eyes, and she has this sick partial unibrow going on.
Yes, she does. And I wrote it down. I feel bad because, like, she's a little girl in this movie.
Totally.
Like, she has, like, you look at her, and if you didn't know she was Jennifer Connelly, you might pick it out.
Right.
But she's got little girl face. Like, she's still got, like, you know, the
Kid
fleshy
face.
sort of chubby face.
Sure.
And so when I saw the unibrow, like, I laughed at it, but then I felt bad because I'm like, oh, this is a little girl. Like, I don't expect her to pluck her eyebrows.
Right. Yeah. And hey, I'm going to go ahead and put it out there that when it comes to ladies' eyebrows, I tend to go more is more.
You're a Frida Kahlo guy.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm at,
There you
man. I'd rather have that than that super plucked, like just like one line of single hair. That's just bizarre. So she's running out and she's on the roof, which is like kind of like cracking underneath her feet. She's on like a ledge in front of some windows and stuff. And she's coming around the corner to a window, and she sees the girl get stabbed through the head, through the fucking mouth.
Yeah, that was a cool scene. I mean, it looks great. I mean, you can see sort of a little bit that it's a fake head, but you're not really paying attention. I think he was able to focus mostly on the knife, so it looks really good.
Well, and to me too, with this being what you assume is like a dream sequence, it just seems kind of dreamy and surreal anyway, so it really kind of like blew my mind. It was like, oh my God, like that was brutal. Also, her head goes through a window, which is cool.
Yeah, again, another head through a window. This, after that, she turns around to leave, and it turns into a cartoon for a moment.
I know. It totally looked to me like you're playing like a fucking video game. And she just very calmly walks.
Yeah. It actually reminds... I think there was an old Looney Tunes cartoon where someone was sleepwalking and someone was like taking care of them, like pushing them, around. And it looked like that. Like she walks and part of the roof sort of collapses, and she falls, but catches on a tree that like bends and drops her sort of slowly. It really looks kind of like a Rube Goldberg device. It's a strange situation.
Really breaks her fall quite nicely, and she falls to a street. It kind of looks like she's like in the middle of Gatlinburg, Tennessee now.
Yes, it does. She's in a mountain town.
She's about to go to a pancake house or maybe get some souvenir fudge.
Yeah, maybe get some nunchucks and an Old West photo or something.
Oh man, from the China Bazaar, dude.
Obviously.
Get a ninja star. And so she walks out onto the street where she's promptly hit by a car with some Germans in it.
Yeah, but don't worry, it's 2 German guys, and they decide, I guess, to kidnap and rape her. I'm not sure what.
Dude, they just immediately are like, well, we know what we should do here now. Let's put her in the car, I guess.
Yeah, and they say, let's see, I wrote it down.
When they hit
one
her,
of
they're
them
German, and
says,
they're like, Scheisse.
yeah, they take her into the car, and she starts going crazy. And at one point, one of them says to the other, "Would she do it?"
What? See, I didn't get the subtitles, so that part for
Yeah,
me was in Italian.
yeah. One of them says, "Would she do it?" And
What?
then she jumps out of the car or falls out. I can't tell. I mean, the door opens, but I'm assuming she wasn't trying to open the door.
Right.
She falls out. She rolls down this hill. They get out for a second, look down there, and then leave.
Yeah, they're like, I guess we'll find somebody else. No big deal.
Yeah. And then, just like would happen, let's say you were in the Swiss Alps and you fall out of a car down a hill.
Yeah.
The first thing you're going to expect to see is a chimp.
And some ladybugs.
Yeah, some ladybugs and a chimp. So she sees some ladybugs and a chimp. And
she falls into a Disney movie.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. She falls into a Disney movie where a chimp's like, "Hey, come here." And she's like, "Okay."
Yeah,
and
this chimp probably knows where I need to go.
Chimp. And let me tell you, kids, if you're listening, chimps aren't trustworthy.
No.
Right?
No.
They'll rip at your genitalia.
They ain't got a moral.
I'm just saying. They're not nice.
So the chimp takes her to Loomis, where they kind of talk briefly about sleepwalking. She mentions that she sleepwalks and stuff, and then they talk a little bit about bugs and the killer that's on the loose and stuff. At that point, Loomis noticed that she looks cold, so he says to go get Rita's old coat, which is upstairs.
Yeah. And this was interesting. It just shows him looking upstairs, and we hear the moment that she and the chimp Inga walk like out of sight. It turns in like it's like a Three Stooges. All of a sudden, we just hear them like giggling, and she's like, "What? What's going on?"
Yeah, there is a little bit of that going on.
Yeah, I have no idea what could possibly be happening. Because up to this point, that chimp has not been playful. So.
To get up the stairs, they take that sweet, sweet chairlift.
Oh,
Since Loomis is in a wheelchair, he has this really sick wheelchair lift thing that rides up and down the banister. Which is like, oh gosh, this might be irrelevant. Actually, this time, kind of is.
Yeah, it kind of is. It immediately reminds me of anytime I see those, I think of Gremlins, because of the scene in Gremlins where the Gremlins load the wheelchair thing and it sends a lady shooting out of her house.
To me, every time I see one of those, it reminds me of this really ridiculous meme that I saw this one time. There was a picture of one of those, like a wheelchair lift that goes up the stairs. And it just had this little caption on it that said, "This thing drives me up the wall." For some reason, that just kills me.
That is such an old person joke. For some reason.
Total
really
dad
gets
joke.
me. Yeah.
So she comes back downstairs with her coat on. Describe that coat, Steve.
Indescribable. Like what was it?
It's like a wool pea coat, and it has a big-ass iron cross on the chest.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that is what it is, right? I mean...
It looks like that to me.
They're in that area. That just seems like...
Ooh, a little too soon.
Yeah. Little too soon.
And a bug then skeets all over Loomis's glasses.
Yeah. The bug's like, "All skeet, motherfucker."
Yeah.
And Jennifer Connelly's like, "It's no big deal." And he's like, "Do you want to hold the bug?" She wants to hold the bug. He's like, "Be careful." And she's like, "Oh, don't worry. I'm queen of the bugs," or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is when, of course, Loomis discovers that she has some sort of weird connection with bugs.
She says that's the bug's mating call he's doing right there. And then she makes a little joke about fucking a bug, which is kind of strange.
Yeah, it's gross on all levels.
And he gives her the little pro tip there that next time she's sleepwalking, she just needs to remind herself, "I am sleepwalking," and she'll wake herself up. So,
yeah,
this is the thing to me, Steve, and tell me if you got this. So far in the movie, were you not expecting that sleepwalking would be like a vital part of this storyline?
Absolutely, you would expect. You know what? Sleepwalking. That's where this is all going. She's gonna sleepwalk into some situation that's gonna somehow like solve everything.
Yeah. And then,
but no.
Even after that, we're treated to the scene of her back at the school, and she's getting like an EEG test where she's got all these diodes and stuff hooked up to her head, and they're going to test her to see what her brain is doing, because apparently these people are so fucking freaked out by sleepwalking, because I guess that's something that only absolute lunatics do. I thought that sleepwalking was actually pretty common, especially in adolescence and stuff, but they act like if you sleepwalk, you're a fucking lunatic. So they're hooking her up to all these things.
She keeps telling them, like, you know, she's not epileptic, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And they're just not listening to her. And again, like, don't understand where the hate's coming from, like why they dislike Jennifer Corvino.
And they're even like, sleepwalking can even be a sign of a new personality or schizophrenia showing up. It's like, what?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Now, this is what I was confused about, because they start the machine up, and the readings start going crazy. She's having some kind of like a flashback and stuff about her dream that she had, and she's seeing the vision of... It's almost like the vision of the girl that got killed earlier, but through a bug's eyes or something.
Yeah.
Did she fall asleep, or did they just start recording and she immediately started having these visions? Because she never closed her eyes. It was very weird.
I don't know. It seemed like the way she responded to them that she did that on purpose somehow. Mm-hmm. Like she somehow knew that she could do that. I don't. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
But what we do see is that the EEG goes crazy.
Yeah.
Which, you know, even as laymen, we know means she is insane.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, clearly. Those needles don't bounce up and down for no reason, Steve.
So, yeah, she...
stomps on out of there. She is pissed.
Yeah, she's not happy. She grabs her stuff. She yells at him. She leaves.
Which to me is... that's kind of an introduction to a little aspect of her personality as a character that I really did enjoy. She is a hard ass, dude.
Oh, she is. Yeah, she numerous times just straight up pumped out adults.
Yeah, just like straight up tells them to fuck off, which usually in movies, much less horror movies, much less horror movies from the 80s.
Yeah.
You're really just used to the female characters, especially main characters, just being fucking demure and, you know, just not really standing up for themselves and that kind of thing. So it was really cool to see. She does not give a fuck.
No, she is, not intimidated.
And so after that... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, after that, we get to the part where Jen is making a phone call, trying to call her dad's agent, right? Because her dad is out of town or something like this and can't be reached by phone. But she's trying to call his agent, Shapiro. But it turns out Shapiro is out on holiday for 3 days on Passover.
And, of course, we learned this from one of my favorites, the one-sided exposition phone conversation.
Totally.
Where she repeats everything that the person says to her.
Yeah,
so that we know.
You don't hear the other person on the other end of the phone. They're just like, he's where? He's on holiday for 3 days on Passover?
Yeah.
That's how I talk on the phone.
Also, those are the coolest phone booths ever that they're in.
Yeah. Total privacy.
Super nice.
It's great. And so, outside of the phone booth, all the other girls in the school are gossiping about how she sleepwalks. Which, again, where the fuck is this stigma about sleepwalking coming from? Is this a cultural thing? Do the Swiss just fucking hate sleepwalkers?
It may be that... You know what? I think I have heard that the Swiss, they had what were called the sleepwalking wars.
Oh.
Where people who sleepwalk, they all got together and only during the day decided to fight. At night, you know, they did their own thing, but...
It was a dark time in history.
It was.
I like how they're all really focused on how Jennifer sleepwalks, but nobody's talking about the girl that got fucking murdered at the school with a knife through her head.
Yeah.
Because that happened.
Also, I wrote this down. These girls are really bad at making fun of people.
That comes up so much later on, too. It's so great.
Yeah. Yeah.
They go like, oh, she sleepwalks. Show off.
Yeah, they call her show off. Sleepwalking. What, that had to be a translation thing. Like the word that they used in Italian or whatever language. Because I think a few different languages are spoken in this. Whatever word must have like numerous possible translations, and that was like the first one, and they just went with it. Because that makes no sense.
No, it's fantastic, and I love it for it. So after that, we're in a classroom where Jen and Sophie are sitting next to each other and stuff, and this girl gets up to answer a question wearing this ridiculous, totally not licensed Bee Gees t-shirt, which I would give my kingdom for, because it is the most awesome t-shirt I've ever seen.
It really is. I think if you pay attention, you'll notice that so many of the girls are wearing these like brand new crisp white t-shirts.
Yeah.
And then they all have different things on them, but it's obvious that they must have just bought a screen printer or something and made their own t-shirt.
Like straight iron on. It looks so baller.
But she stands up. What? I don't get the Bee Gees joke though. Like,
no.
She's wearing the shirt. Okay, I get that. Fine. But then the teacher asks what motivates the poet to write whatever he wrote, and she said he took it from a Bee Gees song. Well, I think that's what she said, because it's incomprehensible, really.
I wish that after that we would have got a close-up of the girl's face and she would have said, I'm a fan of the Bee Gees, just to really drive it home.
Rule of threes. Yeah, we gotta know. Like, okay, she's got the shirt. She thinks this poet wrote something straight from the Bee Gees. Does she like the Bee Gees?
Confirmed. She likes the Bee Gees. And so then Jen is talking to Sophie, and she's like, oh, what if the killer saw me, yada, yada. And the teacher calls on Sophie to answer some question that she wasn't paying attention for. And Jennifer, like, feeds her lines where she's like, the poet said. And then Sophie's like, the poet said that the meaning of the phrase, It's ridiculous. Something that would never pass in class.
Yeah, it's like the answer isn't something like 12 or, World War II. The answer is like this involved sort of analysis of the poem.
Yeah.
So it's a real weird thing to be cheating on. And she just feeds her these lines straight up. And Sophie just repeats them.
And then she says, forget the past, or something like that, or screw the past. That's what she says. She's like, screw the past.
Yeah.
And the whole class is like, damn! It was a different time back then.
It really was. Saying screw the past would really, like, people would just stand up and applaud sometimes.
So Jennifer also tells Sophie, she's like, I'm really scared I'm going to sleepwalk again, and the killer's going to get me, so tonight I need you to watch over me. Totally kind of, hearkening back to, like, Elm Street Part 1. I need you to watch over me while I sleep. And then also hearkening to Elm Street Part 1. That totally doesn't work out because Jen's sleeping. Sophie sneaks out of the window in the middle of the night to see her boyfriend. And one thing that I did think was really cool.
My boyfriend.
Yeah, and one thing that I did think that was really cool is after she snuck out of the window, the camera kind of pans across the room to a TV that's on, and you see the parents of the girl that was missing at the first of the movie, and then you see, it makes a very blatant point of showing you Detective Giger on the TV, who's on the lookout for him. Cool introduction of that character.
Yeah, and it also sets up, of course, what's about to happen, which is whenever you go out at night to go see your boyfriend, and you guys kiss awkwardly for 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and then he tells you that he, of course, has to report back to the base.
Yeah.
I don't know what base that is, because he was wearing a shirt that looked like maybe he sold electronics.
Yeah.
Anyway, right after, of course, he leaves. She says, fuck you. He smiles at her.
Yeah.
And then now, the killer's after her.
Look out! So Sophie's Sophie's on the run there, but then Jen starts having a little sleepwalking going on.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
She starts sleepwalking, and you know what? She listens to Loomis's instructions.
She does.
And, man, does it work out.
And then I noticed, too, at that point, the soundtrack is on full blast. And, dude, the soundtrack sounds like something I would love to whip ghouls to in Castlevania. The Castlevania soundtrack just went off the hook. And it is awesome.
And the music in this is just awesome.
It is. It's fucking awesome. And we see that knife rig getting set up again. That snap together, customized, easily traceable custom weapon knife rig. Sophie's running and stuff. We see that weird flash of that hallway from earlier again. Yeah. Sophie gets stabbed, and then at that point Jennifer goes outside, and this firefly starts kind of leading her around to somewhere. She's communicating with the bug somehow. Leads her over to these bushes where she finds this glove. And so she takes the glove, and then it shows her going inside of the schoolhouse there, and the lights turn on, and then she screams.
Yeah, and we find out that she screamed because there were maggots in the glove.
Right, and that's when she's on, like, it's like a shot of her on a cable car riding to Loomis's place, and she's basically just sort of reading through a letter she's written to her dad about how she finds these maggots on the glove, and she couldn't tell the other girls while she was screaming, and yada yada, that kind of thing.
Yeah, which is, it's a weird letter, and we get more of it later. But
yeah, oh yeah, definitely so.
She wasn't sleepwalking though at a certain point, right? Like,
yeah, that's what I don't get. Is like, where did the sleepwalking end, and she just began.
I think like as she was seeing the Take on Me hallway, she started saying, like, you know, whatever it was he told her to say, and like a magic spell, it just cures her of sleepwalking. Like, she doesn't sleepwalk again, does she?
Boy, you might be right. I thought.
Yeah, and so it's never going to come back.
So that aspect of the plot is now dead. So at this point, she's back in Loomis's office there, and she's surrounded by bugs that sound like squeaky wheels on buggies again. And and the bugs are acting all weird and jittery and crazy, and Loomis is like, they're reacting to your mood.
Yeah, and this is when we get the super scientific explanation of how bugs all are telepathic.
Yeah.
He says it's perfectly normal for insects to be slightly telepathic.
Just slightly, though. Like, not full on.
Slightly.
So I'm trying to determine exactly what slightly might mean. Where it's like, maybe it can't communicate to you directly?
Right. But it's receptive to telepathy, I guess.
Maybe that's it.
Because she does calm the bugs down.
Yeah. They react to her mood, and again, they chill out and stuff. And so that's when we start getting this idea that, oh, okay, so Jen can apparently communicate with bugs, I suppose. And then, then after this, the shot goes back to Jennifer back at school, and again, with the awesome Swiss insults. One of the girls stops in the hall and goes, Jennifer, like, that's all she says is,
Wow. I mean, I can see how that would hurt a person.
Yeah.
For someone to just go, to you.
Maybe that's what Master P was talking about in his song when he said, make him go,
That's what it was.
He saw this movie and he was like, that is a cold-blooded insult. And so Jennifer's walking around the dorms and stuff there, and she's coming around the corners to her room, and in her room is that headmaster from the Robert Palmer video, and I think Frau is Frau in there? I think she's in there, and a couple of the other kids are in her room reading a letter that she was writing her dad about how she feels like she has a split personality emerging, which, again, what the fuck is that about? There is no split personality. Why is... and how she can communicate with bugs...
Yeah.
And all this other stuff.
Yeah. I don't get the split person because, like,
No,
we established earlier that that's not what's happening, but now she's like, oh, maybe that's it.
Yeah, she even talks about it. She's like, I can feel my split personality emerging now. And it's like,
Yeah, it's almost
way?
like she's telling her dad, like, about I grew 3 inches today or something. Like she's reporting it to him like she's so happy about this split personality she's got that can talk to bugs.
Dude, it makes no sense. So Jen grabs the letter from and stomps off. She's like, "That's my letter." And then she walks out into the hallway, and all the girls in the school are now making fun of her.
Yeah, because she talks to bugs.
Yeah.
And they start surrounding her and saying, "We worship you. We worship you."
Which, listen, Steve. Now, again, I'm gonna bring this up again here because it's such a relevant point in my life that, I was homeschooled. So let me ask you being one of the public school majority, how many times when you were in school did kids choose to insult you by surrounding you and saying that they worship you? How often did this happen? And how did it make you feel?
I can recall 2 instances, and I don't want to go into them because I don't want to cry on the first episode.
Words that hurt.
Of our podcast.
Words that hurt.
But it hurts. It's deep. We worship you. You know, you can just feel that cut to the core.
And so Jen kind of escapes from the group of the girls there, and she has this awesome spotlight and some wind blowing on her and stuff. And then it's almost like a scene out of like a David Lynch movie where she's got this glamorous Hollywood-ass light and wind on her, and she goes, "I love you all. I love you.
Yeah.
I love all of you."
And as she's saying this, we're hearing the squeaky wheel.
Yep.
And the buzz.
Yeah.
And insects are just swarming the entire building,
which I think looked awesome. You get this exterior shot of the school, and there's this huge, just black flock of bugs. Swarm of bugs, they're called. A flock of bugs. That's my 80s new wave band, a flock of bugs.
Flock of bugs.
And they're all over the house. And I read online that they apparently achieved that effect by dumping like coffee grounds in water and then overlaying that onto the shot. So apparently those are coffee grounds.
Huh.
Pretty cool.
It looks great.
Yeah, it does. It looks awesome. So all these bugs are swarming all over the windows and stuff like this. And then Jen passes out as though that was some sort of huge exertion on her. And then the next shot is her laying in a bed with an IV in. And she's acting like she's asleep. But the headmistress and this nurse are out there talking about how she's fucking diabolic. And the headmaster.
She's the lady of the flies.
Yeah, she's like in the Bible, he was called Beelzebub, which means the Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies.
She's the lady of the flies.
Yeah. I wish that had come back. I wish she had owned that.
I know,
and,
right?
She'd be like, I am the lady of the flies later, but no.
Pretty cool idea. And so she's laying there trying to act asleep. Headmistress leaves Lilith from Frasier there to watch her.
Yeah, and immediately she falls asleep.
Yeah, she knits like 2 stitches and is like, it's about time to go to bed.
And again, we get a cartoon.
Yes.
We get Jennifer. She takes out the IV, which, by the way, looked like it may have been actually in her arm.
Dude, I know. I think that was real.
I think that was real.
And also, too, the whole scene of her removing the IV out of her arm, step by step by step.
Yeah.
It takes like a minute and a half for her to remove that thing. It's almost like you're watching a damn YouTube video about how to remove IV. Yeah. It is step by step, everything you need to know.
And that again is what makes me think it's real, because
I know.
I mean, when you're removing an IV, it can hurt. You don't want to rip off that tape and just rip it out like they do in movies normally. She takes it out slowly, and we see a little bit of blood spurt out immediately. And then she's trying to be quiet, and oh my god, seriously, it's like a cartoon.
Yeah.
She almost knocks over the IV stand.
Right.
and then she's getting her clothes on, and she's walking, and the cuckoo clock goes off.
The old Swiss
that's
cuckoo.
Not even a joke. That's a real thing that happened in this movie. A cuckoo clock goes off, and she has to grab it to make it stop making noise.
Yeah.
So it doesn't wake up the lady.
And she sneaks out. She manages to sneak out, and she goes back to Loomis's place, where he's sitting there having no discernible Scottish accent.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so he rolls like 2 R's throughout the course of the movie, and that is the extent of his Scottish accent.
That's it. This sets up what I think is the next television pilot that I'm writing.
Yeah?
He gives her a sarcophagus fly and says that the fly will, go to where death is, and so she's supposed to take it with her along the bus route.
Try to find Sophie, right?
To try to find out where the killer is.
Right.
And so he calls them his 2 detectives. And so this is the pilot pitch right here.
Yeah.
The show is my 2 detectives. we have crazy old entomologist in a wheelchair and his red-ass chimp assistant.
Oh, that chimp's ass is so
Jennifer
rad.
Connelly in a sarcophagus fly.
That's the wild card. Is the damn sarcophagus fly.
The sarcophagus fly smokes and drinks a lot. Jennifer Connelly, she's the straight-laced by the book.
Yeah. I love, too, that he calls him, he's like, this is a case for the 2 greatest detectives ever known.
Yes!
Her and the fly, who have solved exactly 0 cases ever. It's like, I think that somewhere, lots of great crime scene detectives are probably gravely insulted at that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So he sends her out with the fly, and then we get a shot of her. Yeah. She's riding on a bus with a fly and a glass box. And she opens
the window up.
Yeah, lets some of that fresh air in.
She wants to, so the fly can smell death. And a lady comes along and says, "Hey, close the damn window. It's cold."
Yeah.
And she's just like, "No, fuck you, old lady."
Dude, she comes at her hot. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
She is a hard ass. And it's like, I don't know what she's lived through prior to this. I want to see that movie. I want to see the movie that turned into such a fucking hard ass the whole time.
Yeah. And 2 things happen here that I'm not sure exactly what's happening.
Okay, I hope that it's one of the ones that I have in my notes, because there's something that happens here that confused me.
One, in the front of the bus, we see someone wearing a fedora and a trench coat with the collar pop.
Dude, the classic,
means, of course,
it's the classic I don't want you to know who I am disguise.
Yeah, up to no good.
Yeah.
And that doesn't exactly go anywhere.
It shows us like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I have some assumptions about it, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
The other thing is, at the exact moment that the bus passes by a road, a black BMW pulls out, and in it is the inspector.
Yeah. Geiger.
Who is apparently going to the exact same place that Jennifer ends up at. So
maybe there's a deleted scene where we saw that he also had a sarcophagus fly inside of the car.
Well, I was thinking maybe there must have been a scene where he realized that, like, she maybe would be the person to follow, or like maybe she would be the one to lead him somewhere that would help him understand what happened to Sophie.
How would he know?
Yeah, but how would he know? Yeah, like we don't get anything.
Damn it.
To tell us why that happens.
There is no truth in this art. And so the fly starts buzzing, and she's like, "Bus driver, let me off of here." And I did like it, though, whenever you see her get off of the bus and the bus drives away, you see that fucking lady from earlier shut the window. She's like, "I'm going to shut that damn window now this kid's off here."
That's true. Yeah, they followed up on that.
Yeah, it's like, this is something
so
that
many
he's fucking
loose
following
ties. That they have to solve.
That's the thing about this movie. There are so many odd things that get attention, and so many
Yeah.
other just hugely important things that get barely even a mention.
Yeah.
It's a really strange sort of logic or vision of reality that happens throughout this movie.
Yeah. And so she's following the fly. She gets off at the bus stop that we at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
And
in
it's
the
heading
beautiful
towards
Swiss
the
Alps
house.
of Gatlinburg.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's heading towards the house we saw at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a shot just before that where she is on this sort of hill with all these white flowers, and there's a mountain in the background.
Very sound of music.
It looks like a painting. It's
gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous shot.
Yeah.
So she follows the fly, which the effect that they did earlier with the firefly,
mm-hmm.
they sort of do again. So we see this sort of little black dot, and we keep getting shots of Jennifer Connelly's eyes following it.
They're just kind of darting around like crazy.
Yeah. There is. Yeah, I assume they told her like, "Hey, you're watching a bug," and she was like, "Oh, bugs go everywhere."
Yeah, they don't tend to be docile, so my head ought to be darting around.
Yeah. So the fly leads her to the house,
and then I noticed too that whenever she gets up to the house, we see that BMW from earlier pull up to the house. Geiger's car pulls up to the house. And then it gives us this weird, 3-second long shot of the tailpipe of the car.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, shiny things keep getting a lot of attention, yeah.
I don't even remotely understand why that was relevant. It's and it showed a little exhaust coming out of the tailpipe, as though he was like, I want you to see that the car is actually running. It's like, okay. I seriously think that Dario Argento must be a fucking lunatic.
I'm assuming, yeah. I mean, his Wikipedia picture, he looks like Dracula. So maybe he's a Dracula.
Yeah? He might be one of them. Well, that would explain the Swiss Transylvania, too.
Yeah.
So Jen goes in the house, and it's all dusty. Looks like it hasn't been lived in a minute there. She picks up a tarp that has a bunch of toys and dolls and stuff under it.
Yeah, it's creepy.
And the fly leads her into a room that has a bookcase, and on top of the bookcase, it looks like there's some scrolls or maybe some rolled up blueprints or something.
Yeah.
Which I don't even remotely understand the relevance of what those would be or why she would look at them. But
she really wants to see it.
Yeah, and in her process of trying to get them, she breaks this hole in the floorboard and she falls down. And then this man out of nowhere grabs her, and he seems super normal.
Yeah, totally, right?
And he's like, "Are you in here? You're in here to steal something." And he talks about how the tenants moved out 8 months ago. Again, 8 months ago is mentioned 100 times throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And
so we know that whoever lived there moved out after that girl got killed.
Right. And what I really liked is she wiggles free from his grasp, and she runs off around the corner, and then the guy goes to look where she's gone, and she's already a mile away.
Yeah. He must have really taken his time to go see.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't care. Who knows? But then we see, as they've left the house, we see that hole that she broke in the floor, there are maggots around it, and underneath there's rotting body.
Dude, and that was a shot that I really liked, because it's kind of the camera is sort of moving towards that maintenance guy, and then it goes past him and through the house, and you realize you're actually seeing the vision of the fly. I thought that was way cool. There's this fly vision shot. Yeah, you're right. There's this rotten hand underneath the floorboards there, and at that point is where Geiger pulls up to the house.
Yeah.
And he starts asking the housekeeper guy about, who lived here. And the housekeeper guy's like, I can't tell you that. And he's like, I'm Detective Geiger. And then he kind of shoves his police badge into the camera, which is weird.
Yeah, that was a real weird moment. Like, it was almost like an old silent film moment where, like, it just he is pushing the badge towards the camera, and then it just sort of fades out.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense. No reason for it.
And then we cut to sometime in the night where the chimp is outside walking around, and he spots a kite in a tree. It's like a kite in the shape of a butterfly that's stuck in a tree, and the monkey's like, well, sorry, Chimp. Chimp is like, well, I have to have that.
Yeah, gotta go rip that down.
And so as he's fucking around with that, we see somebody getting into Loomis's house.
And they close the door behind them and lock, yeah.
And then the chimp goes up to the door and is banging on the door and stuff because he's locked out. Loomis hears all this banging around going on inside, and he wakes up. Then he's upstairs, so he puts his wheelchair onto that chairlift thing and starts taking it down. And he's like, oh, you've locked yourself out again.
Yeah, and this is insane.
Yes.
The chimp is ripping shutters off of the window.
Yeah.
And this isn't CGI. There's nothing going on here except that a chimp is ripping the shutters off of this window.
Right.
And then breaks the window and is just crawling itself through the broken window. It's one of the most primal scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
Dude, yeah, it is. And it's going totally nuts in the process. And what you see is Loomis is going down his chairlift thing, a hand in a glove, pushes the button that stops the chairlift. Yeah. I guess Loomis can't see. I mean, I guess we can see for the benefit of it being a movie, but I think
but Loomis can't very dark. See. Yeah.
Yeah, because this person is like at the base of the stairs pushing the button. He's like, "Who's there? Who are you?" And he shoots his like laser pointer at the person at the base of the stairs, who's kind of wearing a trench coat and stuff, kind of like the person on the bus earlier, but it's not. Yeah, it's black.
Yeah, it's a different trench coat.
Yeah, so, and also
what was
it looks
the
like
other person?
And this will be relevant later. It looked like a normal grown adult.
Yes.
And but there is a sweet shot where he's shooting the laser pointer at the figure, and we get this shot that's almost like you're seeing into a mask or something. It's like the killer's eye.
Yeah.
And it's red and it's super sick. It's really cool.
Yeah, real cool shot.
And then that crazy elaborate knife assembly stabs Loomis as he's coming down the chairlift.
Uh-huh.
And he dies.
This one shot kills him. And then when we see him dead in his wheelchair in the light, it looks like someone just took like a red marker and just marked on his shirt a little bit.
Which is funny because, like, you know, other parts of the movie that have blood, it's pretty juicy looking.
Yeah, I'm imagining the actor was just like, listen, no, you're not covering me in blood.
Yeah, he's like, Loomis, don't deal with that.
Yeah.
And he dies with the most ridiculous look on his face. And it keeps showing his face time and time again of him looking so dumb. The chimp gets in, and the chimp's like checking him out, and he's like, oh no, he is the dad. And it keeps showing his face just looking absolutely brain dead. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it is. So then
the car speeds off. Like the killer's car speeds off, right?
Yeah. And then the ambulance is there, etc.
Before that, though, while the car is speeding off, the I keep saying fucking monkey. The chimp is like on the roof of the car.
Oh my God, yes.
Which is so rad.
The chimp jumps up on the roof of the car, and it's like the traditional sort of action movie chase scene where the person's on the roof of the car.
Yeah.
The whoever's in the car is trying to, you know, shake the chimp off. Eventually does, but it's badass. Like,
it is.
I don't know how they trained this chimp to do these things. I really hope that it was just training and that the chimp wasn't really fearing for its life.
Listen, am I crazy, or is the chimp the best actor in the movie?
Oh, absolutely.
It's very convincing because, like, whenever it's on the roof of that car, it seems pissed. And, like, in the last scene when it's trying to break into the house, It was totally freaking. It was the most impressive acting in there. So you're right. After the chimp gets shook off the car there, we go back to the house where Loomis is being carried out on a stretcher as Motorhead blares on the soundtrack.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a weird choice though, because like it's not like the song's great, but
hell yeah,
there's no action going on.
No.
There's nothing like to go with the song. It's just a guy being wheeled out of his house dead.
Yeah, so it definitely needs some old school proto thrash courtesy of Motorhead.
Yeah.
And then
R.I.P. Lemmy.
You know, okay, going back to what I was saying a second ago about certain things getting a lot of attention and other things not getting any attention. For example, the next scene is of Geiger at, I think it's like an insane asylum or something.
Yeah, an insane asylum. Uh-huh.
And he's with some attendant, and he's like, so you've never had anybody break out of here? Well, no, but I'm looking for somebody that might have broken in.
Yeah, and the guy says we did have an incident like that about 15 years ago.
Yeah. And
the end.
And that's basically it. They walk down a hallway, which kind of, sort of looks like the one that Jen dreamed about earlier. Kind of, but not really. And they go to the end of the hall where there's a guy in a cell that has all these crazy fucking scars all over his face.
Yeah, and that's it.
Who is that?
No idea.
I was wondering if I just missed something there, because I rewound that scene, I think, like 3 times, and I'm like, surely I missed something here.
I may have a theory about it, but I'll get back to it in a little bit when we get to the big reveal.
Right. So after that, Jen is at a bank trying to get some money so that she can fly home and escape this school, because she's convinced that the killer's going to get her, and all the people at school hate her and all this stuff.
Which is, again, an indication of just how badass she is. She, like, at 14, I would have had no idea what to do in a foreign country to try to get home.
Right.
But she's not intimidated. She just goes down to the bank and she's like, hey, give me some money. Like, you know,
she's like, I'll call my dad's agent and see if he can't wire some money. I mean, seriously, she is a self-sufficient type, which is pretty awesome. Again, especially in the horror genre to see.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of that, we're also treated to another scene where the chimp is walking around and goes through a trash can and finds yet another stabby object.
Yeah, he finds a straight razor.
Beautiful, shiny, chrome straight razor.
Yeah, and he keeps it. Now, earlier, I forgot to mention this. Very early, when we first see the laser pointer, which seemingly has no relevance.
Right.
But actually does. He says that when he shines that laser pointer on something, Inga, the chimp, will never forget it. Which is a weird line at the beginning. But then when he does shine the laser pointer on the killer, it turns out that
the monkey didn't forget.
The monkey doesn't forget.
Dude, I hadn't thought about that.
Inga grabs this switchblade or straight razor, I'm assuming because it's shiny, but then keeps it because she is out for vengeance.
Dude, I totally had not thought about that with the laser pointer. That's a really good point. I hadn't considered that. Huh. There's actually some kind of bizarre logic going on in this movie.
Yeah. So yeah, some things are really followed up. So there's Inga, and then we have JC. Where is she at this moment? Oh,
she's in the bank.
She's at the bank,
and the teller's like, "There ain't no money in that account."
Yeah, and Frau Bruckner shows up.
Yeah,
and says that Shapiro called her. The agent called her and told her to pick her up and to keep her at her house, and he'll be there to pick her up.
Yeah, she's going to be leaving on a plane the next day.
Which, at first, she gets to the house, and the house, first off, is huge.
Yeah.
And she makes mention of it, too. She's like, this is a really big house.
Yeah.
They go in, and things get weird almost immediately.
Yeah, it does not take long for things to get very strange. She's like, do you live here alone? She's like, no, I live here with my son, who's a lunatic, and I'm really worried about him, and I think he's making me crazy. Don't worry about him, though. He'll just stay in his room with his crazy thoughts.
Yeah. And
they have all the mirrors
covered. All the mirrors are covered, which again makes me think, oh, is her son a vampire? Like,
yeah,
did she cover the mirrors so he doesn't have to deal with the fact he doesn't have a reflection or something?
Right.
Anyway, so she sees Frau Bruckner walks out for whatever reason.
To make her some tea.
To make her some tea, and she sees what looks like the shape of a child in a room, and of course, because she don't take no shit from nobody.
No.
Somebody says, don't worry about talking to my son. She's like, no, I'm going to do that.
Yeah,
so
that's
she
exactly
walks into the room and is a little freaked and accidentally kicks a toy train, I think it was, that hits what looks like the son and knocks it over. And we can tell at that moment it's a doll.
Right.
But Jennifer cannot, apparently.
Yeah,
so
she can't quite discern that this is not, indeed, a genuine human.
And
Frau walks in, and Jennifer's like, I'm sorry, I don't know if I hurt him or not. I got scared or kicked this toy and knocked him over or something like that. And Frau walks over and picks up what, again, Jen is assuming is a kid. And it's like a mannequin that's like falling apart at the halfway point. Like it's got like a rope that attaches its torso to its legs. And Jennifer goes, don't grab him like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're ripping him apart.
Yeah. That was a weird moment for sure.
It's like just when you think she's really got a head on her shoulders, she's like, don't grab that mannequin boy like that. But
be nice to him.
Frau retaliates by getting actually even weirder and more illogical than that. And she's like, you think this is my son?
Yeah, she's, like insulted.
It reminds me of like a scene from Zoolander where he's like, what is this, a school for ants?
Yes. And so Frau Bruckner insists that Jennifer has a fever and she needs to take medicine. And then there is a scene entirely in Italian for like 5 minutes.
It lasts a long time, and they're just kind of jabbering away in Italian.
But eventually, she convinces Jennifer to take the medicine.
And so Jennifer's like, I'm going to go in this bathroom. And then Frau stands in the doorway, at which point Jennifer physically, again, like a 14-year-old kid, like physically pushes this adult away from the door. Just hard ass, dude.
She's just like, I'm going to the bathroom, ma'am.
Yeah, and she shuts the door, and at which point she very easily could have just flushed the pills down the toilet, right?
Right, but no. She thinks, I guess I should take one of these pills.
Yeah.
And then takes one and almost immediately recognizes, or I don't even know if she's recognizing, almost immediately she assumes she's poisoned.
Yeah, when she like washes her hands and she notices that there's like maggots on the soap and then maggots on the towel and just maggots everywhere.
Not a drop to drink.
And that's when like she starts getting the voice of Loomis, who I guess is a Jedi spirit now.
Yeah, I wish. Oh man, if he had shown up as a shimmery blue Force ghost, that would have been awesome.
Dude, he's totally Force ghosting hard, and he's like, the killer's a psychopath. The killer would want to keep part of the body around, yada yada. And at this point, she starts figuring out that she's been poisoned or something like this. And in an extremely hard to watch scene, kind of like the IV scene, I'm pretty sure this is real, makes herself fucking throw up.
Oh, it's absolutely real. Yeah. She's making herself throw up, and that's real puke.
I mean, it has to be. She's putting her finger down her throat and stuff, and it looks... I mean, straight up, it looks like bile.
Yeah.
Like, she's totally throwing up. Like, Argento is like, hey, kid, make yourself throw up on camera.
And I'm not making light of the situation. Jennifer Connelly was a model. maybe she already knew how to do that.
Look out.
Ugh. Yeah.
Look out.
I don't like that may be true, but that might be it.
I'm calling inside job on that one. Fingers don't make you vomit like that, Steve.
No, they do not. And so JC decides, she's going to use the phone. She comes out,
Frau is like banging on the door. She's like, "What's going on in there?" And then Jennifer opens the door, and Frau, Jennifer goes off to the phone, right?
Immediately, yeah. She just walks out of the bathroom, goes to the phone. Like, she's already suspicious of what's going on. But I guess she's still not. She still doesn't think maybe that she needs to be afraid of the Frau. And so she just goes straight to the phone.
Frau finds the pill in the sink, and she's like, "That bitch didn't take this."
So she picks up a piece of wood and hits her on the back of the head.
Yeah, she bops her pretty good. They have a little scuffle there. Knocks Jen out. Frau unhooks the phone and puts it into this other room and locks the door. And at that point, we get a view of Geiger's car pulling up outside. Because, again, somehow he just always knows exactly where to be. Jennifer Connelly starts screaming for help, and then Frau, chokes her with a sheet or something?
Yeah, and drags her. And then she grabs the phone and puts it into a different room and locks the door.
Right.
And goes to deal with Geiger, who just showed up.
And we get the scene of Geiger and Frau outside talking, and it's really weird.
It is very weird. What was going on there?
So she's like, 15 years ago while I was working at that asylum, I was assaulted through the bars. And she just says one of the inmates grabbed me through the bars and assaulted me. And she opens up the top of her shirt where she's got this huge scar going across her chest.
Yeah.
Which I have no idea what's going on there with how that happened or whatever was her situation.
Here's part of my theory about the insane asylum.
Okay, Scar Guy?
Scar Guy, I think, maybe, is the guy who grabbed her. So we're supposed to associate his scars and her scar, maybe.
Right.
But yeah, so while this is happening, Jennifer decides, she wakes up and decides that, she's got to get to this phone. And there's a little window. I don't remember what those are called. Little windows above a door in your house. A little window above the door. She opens it up, and this is, it's I would say, maybe in an American movie, they would cut some of this, because
it's a long-lasting scene.
Yeah, they show the genuine struggle of her using this pole to try to, wrap around the cord of the phone and then pull it up and out, but she can't do it. She fails at doing it, and eventually just goes into the room.
Yeah, that's what I didn't get, is she's messing around with this handy helper pole, and she's got her body halfway through the door window thing up there.
Yeah, just go the rest of the way.
Why are you fucking around with this pole? Just go through. And at some point here, we hear Geiger scream, so we assume that he's met some sort of bitter end at the hands of Frau.
Yeah.
And Jennifer is not so handy there with the pole, and she knocks the phone down into this huge hole in the floorboard where it just falls and falls and falls. And at that point, she's like, well, fuck it. I guess I'll just crawl through.
And she crawls through and goes into this hole, which is a tunnel. And she's using the phone cord as like a lifeline almost, just following it, though there's only one direction to go. So I don't know why she's doing that.
And then
maybe it's supposed to be dark in there.
That's the impression I was going on. And also, too, one thing that I noticed is while she's going through that hole, the kind of, tunnel or whatever that somehow leads through the house, through the subfloor or something like this, the lighting is super cool. And it's a cool shot that's just sort of side tracking. And she's going through this really dark, damp looking dirt. It all looks very musty and not wonderful all of a sudden. And while she's crawling down through that hole, we get a shot that lasts 2 seconds of Shapiro showing up at the airport. He's like, I know where I'm going. And then goes back to Jennifer, down in the hole. And the phone, she gets to the base of the phone, and the phone rings, but she kind of like knocks it over and stuff. And by the time she's grabbed it, Shapiro, who's on the other end of the phone, is already hanging up.
Yeah, no patience.
No, he ain't about to deal with that. And then some hands reach out and grab her and pull her into another room.
And those hands belong to Geiger.
And he looks like shit.
He is bloody. He's chained to a wall. I don't know how long she was in that tunnel, but I'm assuming Frau Bruckner is very efficient at handling a person twice her size.
Germans known for their efficiency because she mauled this grown-ass man in the time that it... Well, you know what, though? It did take... Maybe that was the purpose of showing Connolly wrestling with that phone for like half an hour.
That makes sense.
Geiger is getting mauled and chained to a wall. Chained up with the same sort of rigs that we saw at the first of the movie, too. I thought that was kind of relevant. And so he's like, I'm Geiger. I'm not weird. Although he's super, super weird.
Yeah, and she, of course, is freaking out and falls backwards into a pool of death.
The most disgusting thing of all time.
Absolutely. It is a small pool filled with decomposing bodies, just this muck that I'm assuming is like soup of intestines and things.
Ugh.
And maggots everywhere.
Sort of a morbid stew, or perhaps a graven gumbo. It reminded me of like the trash water in the garbage compactor scene in A New Hope.
Yes.
Only far more unappealing, and it's
far more disgusting. Yeah.
Teeming with maggots. There's just like maggots everywhere. It is so gross. And considering that everything in the movie so far has been like pretty tame, and kind of like you were saying earlier, it's like you could see it was totally a fake hand that got stabbed. You could see it was a fake head with scissors going through it or whatever. This is just like, it's so sick that it really, really takes the wind out of your sails. It is like disgusting.
And it's not like just a pool of water with some fake like bones floating around in it, and then we like intercut some shots of maggots. You can see the maggots, like everything, and the parts of the body still have like the flesh on them and stuff. It's not a cheesy way of showing this. This is a straight, just brutal. Like they really put Jennifer Connelly into a pool of disgusting.
It really makes like the swimming pool corpse scene in Poltergeist look like a demo.
Oh, yes, it does.
Ugh, it's so gross.
Her trying to escape lasts a long time, and Frau Bruckner shows up, and she's laughing, and dude, like, she's crazy.
Like Jennifer's like head is going under the water multiple times, and like Frau like steps on her hands, which makes her go head under the water very many times, which is nauseating.
Yes, very gross.
Ugh. And the music at that point is going crazy too. The music becomes this like, again, considering you've been blasted by like Motorhead and Iron Maiden, just this way over the top silly stuff. At that point, the music gets this super dark, like it sounds like Nightmare Opera soundtrack, like fucking weird out of nowhere, which made me feel very, 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 very unsettled. And that's intercut with the scene of Shapiro leaving the school. Like Shapiro's trying to find Jennifer, and I guess he'd gone to the school, and they're like, "Nope, she's not here." And he's like, "Okay, bye."
And this is seriously like she's trying to get out forever, and we see Geiger just go badass.
Dude, he's trying to grab her. He's trying to grab Frau, but he can't because of the chains.
But he's stuck because of the chains. He uses one of the manacles to break the thumb on his other hand.
Dude.
And it looks great. It looks awesome.
And his hands and his skin, which are already thrashed and covered in blood, and then he's just smashing his own thumb until it's just loose meat so that he can slip the manacle off. disgusting. And again, it's the same thing as the corpse pool, where it's like nothing in the movie has looked that grim. So this really just like blows your hair back, you know?
Yeah, and it's all setting up for what's about to happen.
Yeah, so he escapes. He grabs Frau, puts her in the old... I think he put her in the $1 Million Dream there for a second.
I believe so. He did. He went Ted DiBiase on him.
And then he tackles her, punches her in the face a bunch. And Jennifer gets out of the pool. She gets rinsed off by some clean water from a broken pipe, which, again, good setup there, because they didn't want to show her covered in all that muck the rest of the movie. So clean water, rinsed her off on the way out. Pretty good setup there.
Yeah.
And she's dismayed and she runs off.
She gets into a hallway.
Yeah.
That has 4 cells. And, I mean, that's the only way to describe them as cells, because they look like prison cells. Mm-hmm. And one of the doors is slightly open, and you can hear crying coming from inside the room.
Like a kid.
Yeah. And Jennifer Connelly, who is trying to escape a murderer, she is still so badass that she's like, all right, I'm trying to escape a murderer, but I hear a crying child. I'm going to save this crying child.
Yeah, she's like, I know that this person has a kid, so I'm at least going to get him away from this crazy Frau.
Yeah.
Hashtag crazy Frau.
She walks in, and the child, I can't remember what he says. He says something about her hurting his mom or something.
Yeah, he's like, I'm scared. I want you to go away. And there's like a mirror covered up with a sheet again in that room.
And there's no way to describe this. It has to be seen to be believed. But the child turns around and has the face. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a double cleft palate with these like fangs and just spittle running out of the mouth, and this big head on this little body.
Yeah.
And there are maggots on the face.
Yeah.
Too.
Just
maggots.
Not helping his glowing personality out.
No. And
it's like his face is somewhere in between like a fish and like a goat and just awful things.
It kind of also looks like Jason in the first Friday the 13th, who we only see Jason Voorhees at the very end when he pops up.
Of course.
And it's this decomposed sort of face. Kind of looks like that, but of course not decomposed.
Yeah. And sidebar, what's the explanation for the kid looking all fucked up?
All right. Okay, so here's my theory. So she's working at the insane asylum.
Frau.
And when she says she was assaulted, on Wikipedia, the Italian and the English versions both say that she was raped.
Okay.
So when she's saying assaulted, she means raped. Mm-hmm. And so this child is the child of that crazy guy.
Yeah, Scarface guy.
And this just comes from a real old idea behind what causes deformations in children. If a woman is distressed when she gets pregnant, the child will come out deformed.
This is like mega wives' tale, not based on reality whatsoever.
Yeah, not based on reality at all, but this movie, in this reality, it appears to be true.
Whoa.
Now, also, this is a 15-year-old, from what we learned, or 14 at least.
Yeah, you're right, but he looks like he's like 8. He looks like a little kid.
Yeah, and there were those toys in the other... So, like, I guess maybe not developed entirely.
Yeah.
But she said he has crazy thoughts.
Yeah.
Now, what is it he's saying to her that she's like, oh, this is insane?
Because she's like, I'm totally normal. I know crazy when I hear it.
But I thought, at this moment, oh, God, we find out the kid is deformed, so what? Like, that's, he's deformed, sucks.
Yeah, sure.
But what does this mean? Jennifer Connelly, of course, sees this and runs away, as anyone would.
Right.
This is the face of someone who should not be loved, I'll say.
Aw. And so she runs off, and she runs off to
there's a
like this
lake.
boat dock. Yeah, she runs off to like a boat dock. And the soundtrack, again, is going completely mental at this point. She gets in the boat.
It's awesome.
Oh, dude, it's so sick. She gets in the boat, and she's starting the motor and stuff, and then we see the kid is chasing after her with that elaborate spear rig that we've seen the whole movie. Which I guess is like the reason it's so elaborate and long and snapped together is because a kid
is because he's so small. Yeah.
He is so small.
So tiny. And so she's trying to get away in a boat, and seriously, the moment I saw that face, like, I got that chilling feeling all over me, like my hairs on my arms stood up, just like, like, it was so shocking.
Yeah.
But it was even more shocking when he's in the boat to get away from the dock, and he jumps in with the spear.
Ugh.
And like, at that moment, I'm thinking, there's no way out of this. Like, how is she gonna get away? But he spears the gas tank.
Yeah.
Which we will find out later apparently contained hundreds of gallons of gas. Anyway, spears the gas tank. She jumps. She calls on bugs, I guess.
Dude, yeah, because you get that cool looking shot of the full moon out, and then she screams, and then these bugs fly in such a dense number that it like blacks out the moon, which again, kind of like the schoolhouse scene earlier, looks badass. It looks
it's
awesome.
So cool. Yeah.
And this swarm of flies descends on the weird kid and just thrash the shit out of him.
Yeah, they're eating at his face, and I guess, like, at a moment, he reaches up maybe to sort of swat them away and comes away with a large portion of his own face.
He's just peeling his own loose flesh off of his face.
Uh-huh.
So brutal. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And he falls out of the boat.
She jumps out of the boat. Yeah, he falls out.
She tries to start the boat back up. There's that moment of just, like, placidity and silence where she's kind of sitting in the dark in the boat, and then she's like, well, that was weird, let's head out. And she tries to start the boat, and the motor like fucks off and blows up, I guess because there's gas leaking all over it or something like this, so the motor like explodes, and the gas that's on the lake turns into an inferno.
Yeah. She jumps in the water, and she's swimming underwater.
Awesome underwater shots.
You just know that it's gonna happen, and it does.
She gets Voorheed.
She gets Voorheed, grabbed by the ankle by a child that now has no face.
Yeah, he's the old faceless. He's corpse face killer would be his rap name. He's looking pretty shot, but he still wants to take her down.
She escapes his grasp and goes up to the surface, and he does too. And just as he does that, the fire engulfs him. He burns up. She gets out.
She got up on the wet side, and he got up on the more fiery side.
Yeah. She gets out, and as she's getting away, Shapiro shows up.
Yeah, dude.
Don't know how he knew to look there, but Shapiro shows up.
And Shapiro shows up playing the role of Scatman Crothers in The Shining.
Yes.
Because he is immediately murdered as soon as he gets there.
With a sign. Out of nowhere, Frau Bruckner with, I guess, a sharp sign.
It looked to me like a piece of, like, it looked like a piece of sheet metal, like from, like, tin roofing or something like that. Just slices his fucking head off with a piece of sheet metal.
And
like,
she
what is the thought process of Dario where it's like, okay, and she needs to kill Shapiro. What could she kill him with? Let's see. Maybe she could bash him over the head with a rock. No, that's too common. You know? I got it. A piece of fucking sheet metal. I mean, and it's one of those things that's so random and so brutal that it does actually seem really fucking savage. That this crazy lady is like, I'm gonna grab whatever I can and use it to kill this guy, regardless of how
Yeah.
illogical it is. Sheet metal
Yeah.
it'll do the job.
Yeah. So she gets on to Jennifer Connelly. She's on top of her, and she has the sheet metal at her neck, and there's a little bit of fake blood on the neck.
It looks
I don't know.
rough.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it looks rough. Having
It
that sheet
does.
metal pressed about her neck. That's no
Yeah.
place I want to be.
No. We already saw what that metal can do. So, and looks like there's no escape from this.
And at that point,
There's
Frau
no
was like,
way.
he was my son, and you killed him, and I'm going to avenge him. Which,
Yes.
okay. It's like, doesn't really give us much story as for why you're crazy, or why he's crazy, or where any of this stuff came from, but, alright.
But then, oh my god.
Dude. Primal rage.
Primate vengeance.
Dude.
Out of nowhere, here is Inga with her straight razor she found earlier.
Coming in hot.
She slits Frau Bruckner's throat.
Yeah. And is like screaming chimp rage really
It's
hard
just
the whole
like
time.
Insane. Like,
Primal.
so she is seriously the best actor in this movie.
Oh, yeah. And it's crazy,
Absolutely.
too, that, like, you know, it's like, in addition to all the stuff that you've just seen, because really, the last, like, not that any other part of the movie is normal, but especially the last 20 or 30 minutes of the flick, basically after she gets to Frau's house, like, all bets are off, shit comes off the rails.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, like, the fact that this chimp appears out of nowhere and slits her with a razor, you're like, yeah, that totally works. Like, it doesn't even really take you aback that much. It really seems to kind of make sense because Dario has drawn you in to his world of absolute insanity so hard that actually makes sense and is a great conclusion for the movie.
Yeah, and you know what? That actually makes me think that, like, so many of the small things that do get followed up on, and then so many of the larger things that don't get followed up on, are all set up to sort of keep you in suspense at the end. Because I really sincerely did not expect Inga to show up. I thought, that storyline's over. She found a straight razor. That's weird.
Yeah.
But I mean, that has happened so many times in the movie that it would just be like, oh, okay. So you're really not expecting it when it happens.
No.
Good God, though. It's so awesome.
It is. It's ridiculously awesome. And then so basically Jen and the chimp just kind of have a little hug, and that's the end of the movie.
End of movie. So good, though. So
It's
good
awesome.
to end it right there. Like,
Perfect.
don't waste any time telling us anything else. This is perfect.
Yeah, like they could have shown her damn flying back home to the States with her new pet monkey on the plane.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like, and if they would have, that's how it would have happened if they made this movie today, and the chimp would have been CGI.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then, like, right at the end, though, because this is how shitty horror movies are today, the camera would have panned, like, into the airplane to the chimp's eye, and we would see rage in its eye. There could be a sequel.
Dude, I loved the movie. I thought that it was absolutely fantastic. I would watch it very, 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 very many times over. There was so much stuff in it that was illogical and didn't make any sense. All the stuff that we talked about where things seem important but have no follow through, like her whole sleepwalking thing, which at the end does not matter at all.
No.
Her whole supposed split personality thing, which has zero relevance whatsoever. There's a lot of things in the movie that are set up that are just never followed through on. But to me, that combined with the really weird acting and really weird dialogue and just weird lapses of logic and stuff in the movie, I don't know, it has this surreal, dreamy thing going on, which is something that I love in movies. It's not really used very often because it just kind of it doesn't connect with a lot of people. And I could totally see how
Yeah.
somebody could watch this movie and they'd be like, yeah, the acting and dialogue are horrible and it doesn't make any sense. I could understand somebody seeing this movie and saying that, but to me, there's something in it that is this surreal, dreamy, I think a lunatic made this quality. And there's that feature in music and stuff a lot of times too, where you're like, somebody that isn't all there made this, and that makes it really, really, really awesome to me. Because
Yeah.
it's ideas that I would never have. It's paths that I would never take.
Yeah.
Huge risks that wouldn't make any sense to any sane person. And I
Yeah.
really love seeing that in movies.
Yeah, the level of creativity in this is off the charts.
Yeah.
I mean, watching this, I can't think in that way.
Right.
On my, I can see it and recognize how amazing it is that he lets things just die.
Yeah.
He lets parts of the story just die. He makes small things into big things. It's not like I can't think that way, but to see it, it's inspiring, certainly.
They're risks that nobody else would take because to everybody else they don't make sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really love this movie too. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, the soundtrack is off the charts. The soundtrack by Goblin is fucking awesome. And Goblin also, and again, this being the first Argento movie that I've watched, I can't say with any type of authority, but it's like I know that Goblin also did the soundtrack for Suspiria, which I know is another one of Argento's other huge movies, which is one we'll have to watch. I've heard it is also super dreamy and surreal and doesn't really make a lot of sense, so I already think that I'm going to love it. But Goblin did some soundtrack stuff on that too, and I've listened to the soundtrack for Suspiria, and it sounds insane. I loved his soundtrack work on this movie. I thought it was really cool. Even though there were parts where like that Castlevania sound and stuff during that one scene where she was just following a firefly. It's like, this is weirdly out of place, but I still liked it. It was really cool. It added to just the general madness that was that movie.
Yeah.
Cinematography was awesome.
Amazing. And all of the effects, all the practical effects are really good.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was. And, stuff that, like, would have been easy for it to look really shot, like at the first of the movie where the girl's head falls into the waterfall. Yeah. It would have been easy for that to look really bad, but they did it in such a way that it's a really far away shot where you don't see, per se, that it's a mannequin head. And then other stuff like the knife going through the girl's mouth earlier in the movie. Yeah. It's like it's shown very quickly or from such an angle that you can't quite tell. It's very clever use of special effects to keep you from knowing that it's fake.
Yes. It's and a lot of slasher films, especially American slasher films from the 80s. I guess a lot of the feeling on those sets, I would assume, is probably more of a we're having a fun time making this movie, and so you get a lot of these shots, I guess, of effects that they probably thought looked pretty good, so they kind of pause on them.
Right? Yeah. It's like I worked hard on this makeup.
Shows the audience how bad
this.
It really looks.
Right. The gore special effects and stuff were really awesome. And let me ask you, because this is something that I always want to kind of ask about these movies when we watch them. Because considering this is all kind of going to be based around horror movies and scary movies and stuff, would you say that this was a scary movie?
Oh yeah. As I said, the moment that we get the reveal of the son and what he looks like, and the moment when the son jumps into the boat. Those are both scenes that just viscerally made me react, which is what I would say is the height of fear for me.
And it's cool, too, because those scenes you're talking about take place so late in the movie that by then you've almost kind of been lulled into thinking, oh, this isn't really going to be that scary of a movie.
Yeah, it's more of a thriller or a mystery or something.
Yeah.
But
yeah. For me, it was like when it hit the corpse pool, which is of course the scene right before what you're talking about.
Oh,
and I was
God.
like,
yeah,
oh my God, this movie is going horrendous places. But then at the same time too, man, like there were other shots in the movie, like the fly cam shot where the fly led you down into the floorboards to see the severed hand.
Oh yeah.
When you saw that, weren't you like, oh, I understand where David Lynch got a lot of his ideas from? That could have been
absolutely.
in Blue Velvet, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh-huh.
Which again, that guy's movie is like a lot of Lynch's stuff has that dream feel I'm talking about, where it's these weird, non-logical, non-realistic choices that occur only in your fucking subconscious when you dream. That's so hard to tap into and do it right. And I got a lot of that vibe from this movie too. That weird David Lynch thing that's hard to pinpoint but freaks me out because it reminds me of dreams.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking watching it too. I was thinking of David Lynch. I was thinking also a bit of Cronenberg. Cronenberg's more of body horror, but he does follow that surreal feeling. And Dario Argento is definitely now on my list of people to watch.
Yeah.
Anything he's done, I'm gonna watch it, and I'm sure he's done some bad stuff too, but this is certainly a good one.
Yeah, definitely so. I'm very, very interested to see some of his other stuff, especially from around this time period, to see if it's just as good. Because I know whenever I hear people talk about Argento, they talk about Suspiria, they talk about opera, and I never really hear people mention Phenomena that much. So the thought that this is kind of, popularly looked at as one of his, not as great of an achievement to some of his other ones, it really makes me excited to see those two, to see how good they are. Although I did read an interview where Argento said that this was possibly his favorite work that he did.
Yeah, I can't say anything more about it than it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely recommend watching it. I'm surprised I hadn't heard more about it.
Yeah. So, I guess we're closing up here.
Yeah. Next movie that we're gonna do, I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do, but I do know that we did both recently watch Pumpkinhead. That's
true, and Pumpkinhead is definitely worth talking about.
Hell yeah! So we might do that one on the next episode. Until then, stay tuned, and we'll both post about this next episode coming up on our own social media outlets. Hopefully by the time we get the next episode up, we'll have specific social media for our Dead and Lovely podcast, so you'll be able to find us on Twitter and Instagram and Yahoo GeoCities and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Angel Fire.
Yeah, Angel Fire is going to be kind of our main base. So probably by next episode we'll have some more information about that stuff to give you. But in the meantime, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Ben Eller Guitars. That's all one word. BenEllerGuitars. Steve, where can they follow you?
On Twitter and Instagram, I am at Steven Spratling.
Steven Spratling. So keep up with us on there for updates about when the next episode will be up, and we'll let you guys know about it then. But until then, thank you guys so much for listening to our debut episode here, where we kind of gave you a little bit of origin story and then broke down a great flick, which I really hope that you guys enjoy watching. I know that we did too.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Cheers, guys. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.